This meeting is being recorded.
Okay, welcome to the Canada Day Committee meeting for October 10th. It is 7:02 p.m. and we're going to call the meeting to order. We're going to begin with the land acknowledgement. We'd like to begin by respectfully acknowledging that the town of Shelburne resides within the traditional territory and ancestral lands of the Anishinaabe, including the Ojibwe, Potawatomi, Chippewa, and the people of the Three Fires Confederacy. These traditional territories upon which we live, work, play, and learn are steeped in rich Indigenous history and traditions. It is with this statement that we declare to honor and respect the past and present connection of Indigenous peoples with this land, its waterways, and resources. So hopefully everybody has had a chance to look at the agenda. If I could get a mover and a seconder to accept the agenda.
I'll make a motion to move the agenda or adopt.
Okay. And would someone like to second it? Okay, I see Len's hand there. And is everyone in favor of that? Okay, the agenda is carried. Okay, so the next item is any disclosures of pecuniary interest. There are no financial items on the agenda, but if a pecuniary interest pops up, please do mention it at the time. The next item is the approval of minutes from the meeting on July the 25th. Would someone like to move to adopt the minutes from July the 25th? Amy? And the seconder? Sarah? And everyone in favor of the minutes from July
I do.
25th being adopted as presented? Yes?
I do.
Okay, those are carried. So on to the business for tonight's agenda. The first item on the agenda is the introduction of Special Events Coordinator, Jessica. Jessica is with us this evening. Jessica, feel free to tell us a little bit about you and your role with Canada Day Committee.
Okay, yeah, I'll be obviously sitting in on the meetings going forward. You can hear me, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. And then assisting as needed, and I'll also be present during the Canada Day event for Day of Coordination.
So Jessica will
Excellent.
kind of
Thank you, Jessica.
she will be taking Jamie's place. Jamie will still assist as needed, but Jessica will be the staff liaison for the committee. And when it comes to actually booking things like booking the fireworks or booking entertainers, the committee can bring all that forward, but Jessica will arrange the bookings on behalf of the town. So everything is done through the town and has the proper required paperwork that I might not be aware of. So I appreciate Jessica coming on and helping out. Does anybody have any questions for Jessica? Okay, seeing none. The next item on the agenda is the schedule and the timing of meetings for the remainder of 2024 and into 2025. Samir, you had asked me to put this on the agenda. Was there something particular you wanted to discuss in regard to the timing and schedule?
No, actually, I wanted to make sure that everyone is comfortable with the time and date that we had scheduled meeting in past. So just want to make sure we give a fair opportunity to everybody. See if there is any changes that they would like to see. That's the only reason I asked to put forward into the agenda.
Okay. And so you said you're okay with the date and time still, Samir?
Yes, I am comfortable with Thursday and 7 is fine. It works for me, but I just want to give an opportunity to everyone.
Okay. So I'll just go quickly around the room, starting at the top of my screen. Sarah, you're at the top of my screen. You're still good, date and time? Okay. Len, you're next on my screen. Are you still good with the date and time?
I'd like to move the meetings to 3 a.m.
I seconded.
Never mind. Yeah, no, seven's fine.
Okay. And Thursdays are good too? Okay. And Amy, you're good with that as well? Okay. And are we good with keeping it the second Thursday of each month? Okay. So there will be no change to the schedule. However, for the month of November, I am not available for the second Thursday of the month. There's two options. I can see if another staff member can cover, or if everyone's okay, if we potentially move that one to the fourth Thursday of the month. The fourth Thursday. I do have another meeting on the third Thursday of each month. So just a quick question if everyone has any conflict with that.
I'm good either way.
You're good either way, Sarah? Okay. Len, you're
I
nodding.
I am good either way as well, Alice. However, my suggestion is if another staff member can coordinate that meeting, that way we stay on schedule and
Sure.
we don't have a two meeting close to each other basically. So
Yeah.
that's my suggestion, but I would like
Okay.
to hear from the rest of the group as well. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm not available the second Thursday of November, but I'm available any other Thursday.
Okay.
Okay. So that, I think, Alice, that answers the question. I think fourth would work then. But once again, I'm open for everyone.
Okay.
Comfortable on.
So just because we do have it scheduled for the second, if everyone's willing, if we could just pass a resolution to move it to the fourth Thursday just for November, just so that it's clear that the committee is aware and approving of the change for the month of November. So if I could just get someone to move that the Canada Day committee meeting for November be held on the fourth Thursday. Len, you're moving that one? Okay. Would someone be willing
Alice,
to
I'll
second
second.
that? Thank you,
Alice, I'll
Samir.
second.
Okay. Yeah. And is everyone in favor of that? Okay, that passes. Thank you. I do appreciate that. Okay, the next item is discussion on the location for Canada Day events for 2025. So Fiddle Park, where we have held for the last number of years, is going to be getting some upgrades. And so part of the upgrades will mean that the park will not be available for the 2025 Canada Day event. Staff are looking into other locations in Shelburne. And because of that, depending on where we end up, ideally, Jessica, correct me if I'm wrong or if I'm overstepping, but we want to, as much as possible, try to have it in one location still, so the fireworks and the event are still at one location. So it is going to partly depend on where we can do the fireworks, will depend on which location staff will recommend to the committee to say, hey, this is where we can hold it for 2025. We don't have all of that information today, but we wanted to make you aware that we cannot use Fiddle Park for 2025. It may mean having to reduce some of the activities or shorten the time span of things because of less space, because, Fiddle Park is the largest park within the town. It's once we have the location determined, it'll be easier to determine what other activities need to change if needed. But we wanted to make you aware of this sooner than later. Did you have anything you wanted to add to that, Jessica?
So I have reached out preliminarily to Pyro World, which was the company that ran the fireworks last year. And he has indicated that he thinks either Highland Park, Natasha Patterson, or Greenwood Park are likely viable options for the fireworks. Um, that would entail more site visits and stuff to determine where a launch zone could potentially be and then where spectators would be permitted. So that will change over time. But those are two options that we were considering that would work for that.
Okay, Len, I see your hand there.
Yeah, just
Just to,
thinking
I
on
missed the
this.
first one.
Sorry, Samir, you're cutting in and out. We're not catching what you're saying there.
Sorry, I'm actually driving through that stretch where I don't have internet connection. But I missed. I only captured a green the other facility.
So Greenwood Park and Highland Park.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Sorry, Len, go ahead.
I was just going to say that of the two parks, Highland Park or Natasha Patterson Park has both shelter and hydro at the pavilion, whereas Greenwood Park does not. So it might be advantageous to take a good hard look at Natasha Patterson first. I mean, although it would be nice to have, by the splash pad and, a day for the kids and stuff like that. I'm just looking at both the sites and thinking that the shelter and hydro are going to also help make that decision. That's all I have to say on that.
Thank you. And Jessica will make a note of that for when we're looking with the fireworks provider. Okay. Sarah or Amy, did you have any comments or thoughts? Okay. So it is just for 2025, and then going forward, as Fiddle Park is revitalized, the committee will have to look at what the new Fiddle Park offers and locations. And so the Fiddle Park Master Plan is on the town's website if anybody wants to take a look at it and familiarize with what is happening at Fiddle Park. And if you have any questions about what's happening at Fiddle Park, please don't hesitate to email staff and we'll be happy to answer as we can. And so we will continue to have this item on the agenda until we have a firm location decided that the committee is comfortable with and that we know we can offer good event for the community for 2025. Okay, so the last item that's on the agenda is in regard to vendor fees. Now, understanding that we may have to revisit vendors depending on where we end up, if we're going to have space for them or not, but it was requested at the previous meeting to add vendor fees to the next agenda to discuss it further, since we have had trouble getting vendors and other town events have a different vendor fee associated with them. So there was a request to discuss a possible reduction for vendor fees, which should we have vendors at the 2025 event. So just open it up if anyone has any comments or thoughts on this.
How much did we charge last year again?
We charged $100.
And
Do
how
we
much
know
did
what
we,
other places or events or whatever charge?
yeah, like the fair?
I don't know what the fair charges. That is not a town-run event.
Oh, so
That's run by the Shelburne Agricultural Board, completely separate from the town. Jessica, are you aware what Fridays in the Park charged the vendors? I know you weren't really overly involved with that this year.
Part of me, I'm just trying to look in my emails. Part of me feels like it was a $50 fee. But I can't be quoted on that. I'm not
Yeah.
entirely sure.
Okay, and I had 25 in my head. So it's either way, it's significantly less than what we are have charged. Now, there was some discussion, again, at the previous meeting of keeping the vendor fee a little bit higher for food trucks, but reducing it for those that are like providing activities or selling wares or things like that, which we really didn't have a lot of at this year.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. And then we can try to attract more vendors.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe like 50.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sort of in alignment with Amy's suggestion there as well. Sort of food truck and what you said, Alice, food truck and them definitely keep the same amount. But the vendors that is it's hard because it is difficult. Everybody's selling, right? So it's kind of difficult why someone how to justify when someone is selling something and we are giving a different price for both of the product, right? It's different thing. But to keep it consistent, maybe we can just differentiate between a 10 by 10 booth um, versus someone has someone is with the food truck. So that's probably another way to distinguish the fee between the product fee charges for the event. But open to hear from everyone else.
Len?
I was just going to ask, do we remember how many food trucks we actually had at the last Canada Day event?
We had two food vendors.
Two
One
vendors.
was
Two.
Blitzful Treats, and one was Finiti Seafood.
Okay. Here's my thinking on it. Everybody who comes to the park for an event like that is going to get something, be it an ice cream cone, French fries, soft drink, stuff like that. So their volume is going to probably be a lot higher than somebody who's selling quilts or wood carvings or, I don't know, candles, whatever. We say if you're selling merchandise, it's 50. If you're selling food, 75. I mean, I don't know.
I'd be okay with that.
And we don't have to make a decision on it tonight because we're not advertising for vendors yet. This was just more of a continuation of a conversation from the previous meeting.
I mean, you're going to have to sell a lot of candles to get through $100 worth of fees, and that certainly doesn't, that certainly detracts vendors from coming.
And that's the feedback that we have gotten for the last 2 years,
right.
Is that those smaller independent vendors will not make enough of a profit at those type of prices.
But I think a merchant would even settle for $40 for, I mean, that's a realistic recovery on to sell product and get recovery on their fee. So even if we went 40 for merchants and 75 or 80 for the food, I'm just throwing numbers out because
that's fair.
Len, I thank you for that thought process. Really, you kind of buy me in your thought process, but I'm thinking a little bit more deeper now and thinking the merchandising. If we can just reduce even from 50 to 25, maybe, and then food truck we can keep it the same $100 or to 75. Because we wanted more vendor. If we keep it even 50, still I think it's a bit more higher end. For someone who's just selling just wood carve or something, candle or something like that.
Now I know Malmer
open for feedback.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say Malmer has their vendors days out at Superburger. And they don't charge anything, if I'm not mistaken. They just have to provide insurance, and they have 30 or 40 vendors at a time. I mean, they're packed out there. for the days they're there. So, I mean, I don't know what the right answer is. I do know we're not going to, you know what I mean? $50, $25 for a vendor isn't going to, from a vendor isn't going to make or break whether or not we have fireworks, right? Or whether or not we run the event. So, I mean,
No, for 2024, we had one paying vendor. The rest were all comped by the committee.
yeah, yeah. So I don't see that that's a place where we're going to generate a lot of revenue. So it's better to have somebody there than nobody there, even if we give the spot away for free. So anyway, just my thoughts.
Sarah, did you have
Amy,
any
Sarah?
comments to add?
I'd be fine with the $25 price for vendors, a bit higher for food. Honestly,
And Samir, Amy is nodding to that as well, just in case, because you're on the phone, can't see that. So since we don't have a location yet and we don't know how much space we're going to have, we don't know how much space we're going to have for vendors, if we're going to have space for vendors, if we're going to have to alter it. So I don't think we need to make the decision tonight unless you tell me, no, Alice, we want to make a decision tonight. But there's still, some numbers back and forth. We will see if we can get some numbers on what it costs for the Shelburne Fall Fair, what it costs for Fridays in the park, just so we have some comparables, like Len mentioned, the Malmer one, what others around us are doing. So you have a bit more information. And then once we know for sure that we can have vendors, then we can make a better decision as to whether we're going to charge, what we're going to charge. Does everyone find that acceptable?
Yep.
Alice, I'm aligned with that, and I definitely wanted to make sure that all of the Canada Day committee members have something to say in it, right? So I definitely would want to wait for Kyle and Brian to be with us as well when we take that informative decision. But again, to your point, yes, definitely. If we have a better number or some sort of a research around that area, and to back up what we are going to do, it definitely it's going to help us. So yeah, thank you. I'm aligned with that thought.
Okay, sounds good. So that is the last item that's listed on the agenda. Does anyone have any new business that they want to bring up at this time? Len, I see your hand there.
See, I have two of them. Never mind. Do we have any idea what we've got for funds this year, or did we get the grant application in for? Because I know
so
we
the
didn't.
Grant, are you referring to the federal grant?
Yeah, the federal grant. I know we didn't get a federal grant last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm working on putting in the grant application. I don't know what the timeline is normally when you hear back from that.
Last year, like this year in 2024, I think it was like March or April before we heard.
Okay. And I was going to try and put in because you can include costs for entertainment, bouncy castles and that sort of thing. So I was going to apply for more. I think last year we applied for 10,000. Obviously not knowing what they would approve or if they approve anything.
Okay, thanks.
And as far as what we will have within a budget from council, we won't know that until the budget is passed. That answer your question, Len? Yes? Okay, thank you. Anyone else have anything they want to bring up?
Alice, just a question for Jessica around about that two facility that we talked about. I know we already moved on to that from that area, but just wanted a little bit more clarification on what if we go with the Highland Park. Do we have enough space to have both, like, the fun activity as well as the fireworks at the place? or do we lose out that opportunity? Same thing applies for the other park as well. Just wanted to gather that thought as well, so we can, if you can just bring some of those detail into the meeting next time, will help us, make an informative decision on that.
Yeah, certainly. So I think there should be a room to have, some of those features at either of those locations. It will depend when we do a site visit, just because of the launch area and wind speeds. I don't know all of those details. He's out of the country until the 16th, and then we're going to set up a site visit following that. So hopefully by the next meeting, I should have more clarity on where those fireworks are possible. And then you can decide there if that's something that you still want to include or, go forward with that.
And we did just give you 2
Sounds
extra
good.
weeks.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Thank you.
Len?
So this weekend, Pumpkin Fest is going to be at Greenwood Park, or sorry, not Greenwood Park, at Natasha Patterson Park, and they have 4 inflatables on site and vendors as well. So it might be a good experiment for us to maybe have a look. I'll be up there on the weekend anyway, so I'll make a couple of notes. I'm just trying to think if there's anything. Can they not launch fireworks from one of the ball diamonds? That might be a.
I think that that's probably where they would potentially be doing that, which would leave the track, the soccer field in the track area. So I think that's likely where that would take place.
Okay, and apparently Natasha Patterson is town property according to the school board. So that is one less hurdle to jump in terms of getting permission to use the property.
And that's where having Jessica on board will help, because she will be able to do that coordinations as necessary. So we'll have more information on that for the next meeting. And then for the next meeting as well, we'll probably bring up the sponsorship discussion again, so we can start to prep that for 2025. So if there's anything else you want added to the next meeting, please feel free to email Samir and I in advance of the meeting so that we can get that on the agenda. So if there's no more new items to discuss, that is the end of the agenda. So we'll just get a motion to adjourn the meeting. Someone would like to move that? I see Amy and Sarah, and is everyone in favor?
I do.
Okay, so the meeting is adjourned at 7:30 p.m. Thanks, everyone.